How has the royal family become and remained such a controversial institution throughout the past century, and has their controversy increased? This presentation will argue that the growing controversy that the royal family has experienced in modern history has been down to the decrease of support from the public and the rise of media. In a History Matters article, it is stated that the Sun newspaper highlighted a video of the young Princess Margaret and the Princess Elizabeth raising their arms as Nazi salutes. This may have been a silly joke mocking the Nazi party, or it could have been Edward trying to indoctrinate his nieces. King Edward and his alleged fondness of the Nazi party was no secret. Edward had many links to Hitler and Nazi Germany, just like many others in the royal family at the time. Edward's father, George V, was nephew of the German Kaiser Wilhelm, and Edward had visited Hitler in the decade, so it's likely that he may have been pro-German, or at least cooperative. At the time, this was really no surprise. Fascism was looked upon favourably, especially by the upper classes. In fact, George V's cousins were murdered by the Bolsheviks, so fascism played the solution, not the problem. The video in question happened at a time before the Nazi horrors had come to public knowledge. So, in hindsight, King Edward's actions and influence was controversial, as it's now known how horrible the German institution would end up to be. However, at the time, regardless of the motives for the two princesses saluting, it was either, but unlikely, Edward influencing them, a blissful Edward who was at no fault for the actions of the Nazis, or it was two children joking around, also without context of how bad the Nazis were. In reality, Prince Harry dressed up as a Nazi in modern day, so maybe the original article by The Sun should be discussing that, something that's maybe more controversial. So, it's possible to determine why the royal family became controversial, and some of the reasons why have been discussed. The royal family has continued to cause controversy in modern day, the biggest being the scandal surrounding Prince Andrew and his involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. Andrew was accused of serious allegations, and a settlement was reached between him and the apparent victim, a 17-year-old girl. Andrew did not help his case for innocence at all, after completing a disastrous BBC interview in 2019. This is often considered the greatest scandal that the royals have seen, so when compared to the scandal of Margaret and Elizabeth in the 1930s, it made that look like nothing. The salute scandal shows that scandals were rarer and rarely picked up. The royal family had much more power and leeway due to the popularity and lack of challenge at the time. This has obviously changed, and in modern day, a scandal like Andrew and his involvement with Epstein is publicised much more freely than maybe it would have done 60 or 70 years ago. The royal family are ultimately held much more accountable in the 21st century. Another historic event in the family's past that can be used when discussing a recent controversy is the abdication of Edward VIII. Edward was not allowed to marry a divorcee, so in order to do so, he abdicated. This caused a successional reshuffle at the time that made an ill-prepared George VI king. And this caused controversy to Edward, who was seen to have betrayed the country and God. Wallis Simpson was also ridiculed by many members of the family, and more importantly, the press and the public. So support was very much shown to the rest of the royal family at the time. The knowledge of the events surrounding Edward's abdication can be used when engaging with a contemporary issue that is the ongoing ordeal of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. The two situations are not completely comparable, as Edward was king and Harry is a minor royal. However, it is interesting to compare the difference in public reactions. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex experienced much more vocal support, and many condemned the royal family after rumoured racist remarks from the senior royals to both Meghan and their child Archie. This may be due to the platforms available for the pair to show their story, such as a 6-part Netflix documentary released in December 2022. It was also much easier for supporters of the couple to be vocal due to social media, and the royals were on thin ice already for many, so it was easier for them to be held accountable by most of the public. So this may mean if the royals were more popular, this controversy may not have become the issue that it has ended up being. It is also important to recognise that at the time of Edward's abdication there was little media, therefore it was not as easy for controversy to rise. It is possible that if there was more access to media in this period, maybe those that did see the royals as controversial would have been more vocal about it. The royal family also remained much more popular at this time, so most may have sided with the royals due to a loyalty that stemmed from their traditional values. To conclude, controversy has been impacted partly by the popularity of the royal family. It is difficult to definitely say, as without any access to media, we cannot confirm the opinion of many on the royal family in the early to mid 20th century. However, it is fair to say that the royals were more popular at this time, and it is likely the majority of opinions would be favourable towards them, certainly more so than they do now. Their popularity has decreased due to less traditional views being more common, and more questions being asked around what they offer and, importantly, the funding. Unfortunately, ultimately, the media has played a massive impact in the royal family, becoming more controversial. Media creates a correct illusion of rising controversy in the family as well, due to access to information and opportunity to scrutinise.